Hi everyone and welcome back to Newegg TV. My name is Paul and today we're going to be doing an unboxing and overview of this Gigabyte G1 Gorilla X58 based motherboard. So let's start off with a closer look at some of the features listed on the box. They are offering a very generous 3-year warranty in the United States and Canada. Down here on the lower left we can see that this will support Intel Core i7 processors on the 1366 socket. It features the X58 Northbridge chipset as well as the ICH10R Southbridge chipset. Also, Gigabyte has added some really nice onboard audio with the Creative X-Fi Extreme Fidelity audio card, as well as the Killer E2100 network interface card. Now let's flip around to the back and take a look at a few of the additional features. Again, the Killer 2100, just a more specialized gaming card. It also features the Bigfoot Killer software for that NIC, which is very nice. They've provided a front panel access point for USB 3.0, which I'll show you once we get it out of the box. This supports both SATA Revision 3.0 and USB Revision 3.0. As mentioned, the Super Hearing supported by the X-Fi Extreme Fidelity and EAX AHD 5.0 technologies. That's all right down here on the motherboard itself. Everything else that's listed here on the back of the box we will get back to once we actually take the motherboard out of the box, but there's an overview of it for you. And finally, one of the greatest features of this motherboard is the inclusion of both 3-way Crossfire support and 3-way SLI support. So no matter what your video card preference is, the G1 Gorilla can handle a triple card solution for that. And now, without further ado, let's take this out of the box. Gigabyte is going with a heavy military theme for these motherboards. They are geared towards the enthusiast gamers with full features, support, and all that good stuff that all of your top-level gamers would like to see in their motherboards. There is the motherboard itself, which we're going to get to. Let's take a look at the included accessories first of all. Here's the Gigabyte gaming poster that we've become quite familiar with. It's got a nice flaming berate skull with a knife in its mouth on one side, and to make sure that you're keeping up with your target practice, we have a human target on the other side. So there you go, some wall decorations if you're so inclined. Of course, we have the set of G1 Killer decals that is provided with all of the motherboards in the G1 Killer series, the Assassin, Sniper, and this one, of course, the Gorilla. So there's some logos, or I'm sorry, some decals for your case. And the rest of the accessories I'll get out of the box so I can move the box out of my way. Oh, can't forget that. Input, output shield. All right. Let's take a look here. We have a nice Gigabyte decal to put on your case. If you like to put the decals on your case, here is your input, output shield for the back of your case. It is printed. They have a G1 Killer logo on there, and it's got all your input, output shield components, spaces for those to poke through. Here is your full manual for the G1 Killer Gorilla. And tucked away in there is your driver CD. It's usually best to head over to the Gigabyte website to download the latest drivers, but in case, for instance, you need to get your internet connected, handy to have the driver CD on hand in case you need to manually load a driver off of it, or even just go through the full process. Now here's a Gigabyte multilingual installation guidebook, so if English is not your first language, there are plenty of English, German, Spanish, Portuguese, French, Italian, Russian, Swedish, Polish, Turkish, Romanian, Bulgarian, Hungarian, Greek, Czech, Serbian, Croatian, and Hebrew. All right in there. All right, now we have our connectors and whatnot. This, of course, is a 3-way SLI connector, so if you go with a 3-card SLI setup, if you're going with NVIDIA GPU cards, you want to use that. This is a 2-way SLI connector, so if you're just going with a 2-card SLI solution, you can use that. All right, here are our front panel USB 3 connectors, and I really like that they've actually included a 3.5-inch bracket for this. Oh yeah, I have it upside down. It has a nice brushed aluminum black finish on the front, and great to be able to route these to the front of the case because not all cases these days have this USB 3.0 connector that you plug into your motherboard. A lot of them still have the pass-through cables for USB 3.0. So this will allow you, even with a maybe an older case that doesn't have front panel USB 3.0, plug that into a 3.5-inch front slot, and you've got front panel 3.0 connectors. And that other little baggie was the screws that you use to mount that to your 3.5-inch slot. Here are our serial ATA cables, and there are 4 included. It looks like 2 of them feature right angles at one end, and the other 2 are straight plugs, straight serial ATA plugs on both ends, and these are all compatible with serial ATA revision 3 and have the little prongs that latch in once you plug those in. Okay, enough of the accessories. Let us move on to the beautiful motherboard itself. So let us give a full overview of this motherboard, because there are lots of different features to point out. And we'll start from the bottom. So down here at the bottom, we can see separated out, we have our front panel connectors. Next to that, we have 3 separate USB, I believe, yes, those are all USB 2.0 connectors. Next to that, right here, we have a front panel USB 3.0 connector, so that you can plug into the 3.5-inch bracket that I showed you just a little bit earlier. Right here is a fan connector, and these are scattered across the board, but it's nice to note that these are 4-pin PWM fan connectors, so that the motherboard can moderate your fan speed if you're plugging all your chassis fans directly into the motherboard. Moving on over here, we have our front panel audio connectors, and then right above that, all along this panel, you can see all the capacitors and chips that make up the sound card that's integrated into this motherboard. Once again, the Creative X-Fi Extreme, which is just really nice sound, especially considering it compared to integrated sound that you usually get on a motherboard. Next to that, we have all of our PCI Express connectors right there. These are all 16 speed. You can set these up as, I believe, 16, 16, or 16, 8, 8 if you're going with a 3-card solution. In between those, you have 2 single speed PCI Express connectors, and down here at the bottom is a legacy old school PCI, standard PCI slot in case you have an older PCI card and you want to use that. Right over here is our heatsink for a Southbridge, and this is a gun magazine, or it's designed like a gun magazine, going with the military theme. At the top you can see a little bullet sticking out there, and that's your passive cooler for your Southbridge. Okay, so moving on to our peripheral connections, we have 8 total serial ATA slots. All the black slots here are serial ATA revision 2, that is 3 gigabits per second. Those are all controlled by the Intel ICH10R Southbridge chipset right there. The 2 white ones here are actually SATA revision 3 6 gigabit per second ports, and those are controlled by a Marvell 88SE9182 chip that's integrated into the motherboard. So plenty of peripheral connections there for your hard drives, optical drives, and whatnot. Moving along here, we have our power connector, 24-pin power. Right above the power plug is our 6 DIMM slots. These are for DDR3 DIMMs. They're 1.5 volt slots. It will support up to 24 gigabytes total of system memory. Remember, if you are using more than 4 gigs, you should always go with Windows 64-bit rather than 32-bit to avoid that memory limitation. And those DIMM slots support overclock speeds of 2200, 1333, 1066, and 800. So very wide range of memory module compatibility there. And we are almost finished here, but let's move on to the actual CPU socket area. Once again, this is a 1366 CPU socket. So make sure you're getting a compatible CPU. It will support Core i7 processors. Around that you can see the VRM area to supply power to the socket, and we have 2 unique heat sinks that are cooling all of our VRMs and MOSFETs and chokes that are feeding power over there. This one has sort of a unique look. If you can look at it from the front, it's actually shaped like a gun barrel. You got a sight right there. This one right here actually has some LEDs that light up that's connected to the motherboard. The LEDs don't actually serve any sort of debugging function. It's purely aesthetic, but it's a nice little touch there, especially if you're getting a motherboard like this. You probably want to be able to show it off to all your friends. And finally, we're to our input-output area. But first I should point out this is an 8-pin EPS power connector. Make sure you have plenty of power, especially if you're going to be overclocking your CPU, and make sure you have that one plugged in. And finally, our input-outputs over here on the back. So here is our here are the connectors for our sound card. Here is our couple USB 2.0 ports, as well as that killer E2100 network interface. That's where you plug that in. Right here we have a couple integrated USB 3.0 ports. Those are the blue ones right there. Next to that, a couple little dual-use risers here, each one featuring a eSATA port, as well as 2 more USB 2.0. So our back connectors here, we have 4 USB 2.0 connectors, 2 eSATA, 2 USB 3.0, the killer NIC. Right here is our overclocking button, which functions with Gigabyte software, if you're interested in using the Gigabyte overclock function. Here we have a coax audio as well as a Toslink audio out, and then finally our mouse and keyboard connectors. Alright guys, last thing before we close, I wanted to flip around and show you guys the back of the board. Here you can get a really good look at the finish of the PCB itself. This is sort of a dark brown, almost black PCB, which has a really nice clean look to it. Also, all of the heat sinks that are mounted to the front side of this motherboard are mounted with, first of all, normal Phillips screws, which makes it easy to remove, for example, if you want to go with a water cooling solution for some of your chipsets, but also just is a lot sturdier than using plastic mounts. So there's a look at the back, also just the color of the PCB in general, and that pretty much wraps it up for our unboxing and overview. This has been the G1 Gorilla X58 based motherboard from Gigabyte. My name is Paul with Newegg TV. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time.